that students pay through the nose for trying to better their life and go to college and become more productive members of society and better citizens. Who does that serve? Do you think that serves the people of the United States? They're the same people who brought us the mortgage crisis. And I will say this. I looked at the mortgage crisis. The banks paid about $132 billion worth of fines, but nobody went to jail. I promise we will put people in jail from corporations who defraud and take advantage of the American people. I promise. We are looking at drug companies conspiring to addict American kids to opioids, and they think they're going to get away with fines. That is not going to happen. But let me talk about the biggest big money fraud in the United States, and that's climate change. We are faced with something that will affect the health and safety of every single American and every single American in the future. And it's urgent, and I've said, I declare a state of emergency on day one. Look, I'm a business person. I spent 30 years looking at business. I know we can solve this and be richer. I know we can create energy cheaper with renewables than with fossil fuels. Look, we're in Iowa. This state has the highest percentage of renewables of any state in the United States of America. Is there anybody out there who thinks that Warren Buffett is so stupid that he's building windmills in Iowa? We can do this and be healthier. We can do it and be richer. We can create net millions of good-paying jobs for people by doing this. We should not be afraid. We have to do this. The oil companies don't want us to do it. But you know something? I look at this as somebody, I listen to people talk about the United States, and you'd think we were nothing but crises and failure. We're the most successful society in the history of the planet. We have a couple big challenges here. We really have to break these corporations' stranglehold. We have to do it if we're going to solve our problems. And honestly, we need to stabilize the natural world and end our climate crisis. I declare an emergency on day one. I can take you through what I want, but the point is this. If we do those two things, we are going to have a society that is the envy of everyone on this planet. We will reestablish what it means to be Americans in terms of moral leadership, in terms of where we go around the world and stand for what's right, and they depend on us for leadership, for technology, for industrial might, the whole point of America in the first place. So when you think about what we're looking at, yeah, we have some challenges, but we also can create a society for ourselves which goes back to the original part about America, the most freedom, the most justice. We can have healthcare as a right if we do this. We can have free public education from pre-K through college with lifelong skills training. We can insist on a living wage, and we can promise clean air and clean water to every American as a right. Look, we're acting like that's what we have to reach for. We don't have it, but that should be a floor in the 21st century. That should be a guarantee for every American in this century. Because if you don't have those things, if your kid is sick and you can't afford the health care, are you really free? If you can't live out your dreams and go to school and get the support to become the person that you want to be, are you really free? If you're working 2 or 3 jobs because you have to pay the rent, to pay for health care, to pay for your kids, are you really free? We can deliver that right now if, in fact, we redistribute the way the money's going in this country. And that is something we absolutely can do and absolutely have to do. So when we think about 2020, there is a real question for everybody in this crowd who's an American, which is, I assume, all of us. What does it mean to be an American, and what are we going to create together going forward? That is the question for us all. And I'm telling you that if we break this corporate stranglehold and stabilize the climate, we can have a country that is more prosperous, more free, and more just than anyone in this crowd can imagine. We can provide a standard of living that is better than people know, and we can redefine what it means to be an American in the best possible way. And that is why I'm running for president. So I hope someone did actually prepare a question, because, okay, we'll start right there in the front row.
So would you support a national mandate requiring all interns and fellows to be paid at minimum $15 an hour?
So the question was, would I support a national mandate to support interns and fellows being paid at $15 an hour? I am absolutely in favor of a $15 minimum wage, period. If you look at what's happened to working people in this country, since 1980, all of the increase in income in this country has gone to the people who own and run corporations. Working people haven't had a raise for 40 years, 2 generations. Never happened before in America. If you want proof that the corporations own this country, look at where the money's going. They have gotten 10x in terms of their pay. Everybody else is flat for 40 years. Sir. Jim, nice to see you.
Sir, you are good to your word, and I respect and thank you for that.
Jim said to me before I came up, I want to ask you a question. What have you done? What are you going to do? So let me say this. For the last 10 years, I've organized Americans to take on the corporations. We took on the oil companies and beat them. No one thought that was possible. We took on the tobacco companies who'd won 17 times in a row. We went to the ballot box. We got 60% of the vote. Hang on one second, Jim. I closed a $1 billion tax loophole for corporations and gave it to rebuild public schools. And if you look at Iowa, I started an organization called Next Gen America to get young people to be registered, to be involved, and to turn out. We're on 41 campuses in the state of Iowa. We've been here since the beginning of 2013. And if you look at 2014 versus 2018, in the places we were, turnout by people under 30 went from 18%, less than 1 in 5 people under 30 were voting, to 41%, more than 2x. That is how you revive democracy. That is how. James, go ahead, man.
The one thing that I asked you to do today, and I respect and I thank you for that, did not disrespect my president.
Jim wanted me to talk about what I want to do. He's a Trump supporter. And the point here, you guys all know I started Need to Impeach. We all know it. That's no secret. But you know something, Jim's right, and that's this. What's the positive vision for America? I don't want to talk about Mr. Trump. I want to talk about what it means for Iowans to understand what we're doing going forward and what we're doing on this earth. What does America mean? That is a question we do not have an answer to right now, and Mr. Trump would never have been elected if people understood that we had a positive vision of what we're going to do together. And that's what we should be talking about together. That's what we need. Sir.
So, on the executive branch, not legislative, branch you would control, what would you propose that would be a direct benefit to Iowa farmers for improving their soil?
So, the question, I'm going to repeat the question. What are we going to do to talk to Iowa farmers about improving their soil? I am highly aware that this is an agricultural state. But what you guys may or may not know is that I've been running a cow-calf operation in California for the last 15 years. And we've been doing it to show that we can go from an extractive agricultural model to a regenerative model where we improve the soil, we sequester carbon, and farmers make more money. So when I think about what we're gonna do, I think, look, no one spends more time looking at the rainfall than farmers. Nobody spends more time looking at what's in the soil and what the nutrients are and what's needed than farmers. Everybody who works on a farm knows they need to be productive this year and going forward. And so there are going to be new techniques where farmers will make more money and rebuild the nutrients in the soil. And we've got to do that, and we've got to do it in a way that's climate sensitive. But I look at it and I say, okay, what's the worst thing that's happened to farmers in the last 10 years? I'd say a failed trade war. I would say, you want to hurt farmers? Let's take away their biggest customer. Let's make sure that they won't buy anything so the prices go to heck. And the other thing I'd say is this. You know, did you guys ever watch the movie about Johnny Cash, Walk the Line? So one of my favorite lines from Walk the Line is when he gets June Carter to come out and sing a duet. And she goes on stage and she goes, "You have me out on stage, Mr. Cash. Is that where your plan ends?" And for this president, that's where the plan ends. We started the war. We have no plan to get out of the war. Look, I spent 30 years building a business from scratch. You want somebody who understands economics around the world? I've done it all over the world. You want somebody to take on this president and call him out for what he is, which is a fake? That what he's doing makes no sense for the farmers of Iowa, but for everybody who lives here and everybody in America? Love to do it. Love to do it. Because he's not scary. He's incompetent. Ma'am. So the question was, do I support the right of prisoners while they're in prison to vote? We have supported the right of people who have paid their debt to society and come out of prison to vote, and we've supported it actively in the places where it doesn't exist, including specifically Florida. And that is the model that I believe in. I believe in redemption, that we give people a second chance, that we allow people to pay for their mistakes, and we support Americans to become who they want to be and who they can be. So let me make this, I know this isn't answering your question. What is success for America? Success for America is Americans doing well. We are America. So when people ask me, do I believe in free public education from pre-K through college, I say, it's the 21st century. Do we want our young people in the most global economy we've ever faced to compete with everyone else around the world? Of course we do. If there's a kid from Waterloo, Iowa, who gets a good education, becomes a productive citizen, and an effective person, that should benefit every single person in the United States. That person's now paying taxes, raising a family, making our country strong. If there's someone from Compton, California, who gets a good education, support from the government, and becomes a productive citizen and a more effective member of society, that helps every single person in Iowa. We should remember, when we're helping Americans, that's us. We rise together. This separate stuff about trying to divide us by race, by gender, by ethnicity, by religion, by sexual orientation, that's an attempt to break us down. We will rise together. We will support each other. That is American success. Sir. It was the question, will I run as a third-party candidate? The question was, have I ruled out running as a third-party candidate? 1,000 times. I will never do that. Good grief. I'm a Democrat. I still remember 2004. Thank you. I remember 2016. Thank you. The first job is to win the presidency. But let me say this, that is not enough. We need to have a sweeping win. And let me say one other thing about this. When I talked about breaking these corporate, stranglehold on our government, I said 4 things. The first thing I said was term limits in Congress. 12 years. If we have that, there's no Mitch McConnell. There's no Lindsey Graham. There's no Chuck Grassley. And there's no Steve King. We're talking about breaking their back. We cannot have a nice, close victory. We need a mandate to break the corporate control and get it back to the American people. If we get the American people back in control, this country will be so great and we'll be so proud of ourselves. We will have done our job as a generation. And I am absolutely insistent on doing that. Yes, ma'am.
Hi, I'm also an ACLU Rights for All voter. Would you mind giving a yes or no on voting while in prison?
And the answer is, I've never heard of that before. And so I won't agree to it until someone explains to me how you get that while you're in prison, while you're still a felon. What I said was, I believe when you've paid your debt to society, you go back to being a full citizen. And I believe that wholeheartedly. Sir. Lance.
Yes.
He also promised to ask me a question.
Okay. Talking about climate change and things that oil companies hate, would you invest in passenger rail? Believe it or not, the only train through Iowa has always avoided the major cities. There's nothing to Des Moines.
So let me talk for a second about public transportation and what my climate plan. First, let me give the climate plan, then I'm going to answer public transportation. My climate plan is different for 3 reasons, and unless you do this, I don't think you're real. State of emergency day 1. We're in an emergency. Use the 126 emergency powers of the presidency to deal with this on day 1. 2, it's gotta be environmental justice, community-driven, take care of displaced workers. Unless you're starting from the bottom up, unless you know what nitrate runoff in Iowa means, unless you're dealing with clean air and clean water, as far as I'm concerned, you don't exist. You'll have the wrong policy. And the third thing is this. If you're not dealing internationally on day 1, you're kidding yourself. Unless we go back to leading the world morally, intellectually, technologically, and industrially on this, we will not solve this problem. And I'll give you just a quick, my time is up, but I'm going to answer the transportation, but let me say this. There are 237 coal plants in the United States. There are 2,500 coal plants in the world, and people are talking about building 1,000 more. If we close every coal plant here, worldwide, we could be going the wrong way. We have to become, again, the leader of not just the free world, but the world. Mr. Trump is dead wrong with his America First policy. The last time they tried that, it was to support Hitler. In answer to your question, I am totally for public transportation. We have pushed hard for public transportation on a state basis. It's absolutely something that should and will happen, will be great for the environment. We've created 500,000 jobs pushing propositions in California, union jobs, well-paid jobs. Thank you very much. They're gonna throw me out of here. Come on back and ask your question. I want to answer them, but my time is up. Thank you so much for listening.